I always say that it doesn't matter what kind of presentation software you use. Of course, most people, I guess, use PowerPoint or perhaps something else, but I've always used Keynote. Main reason is it's simple. It does less, but I like what it does. But the other reason is I really think it does a better job handling video, exporting video animations, and then also just using video inside your presentations, especially when it comes to having transparency, or an alpha channel. So the first one, exporting videos with an alpha channel, that means I can make some kind of animation which has layers of transparencies, and I can export that and use video editing software. And then the second one, using videos with an alpha channel, that is with layers of transparency or with the background completely removed, I can use videos from stock libraries, for example, and I can use those inside my presentations with that layers of transparency. And it's just a really, really cool effect. It just allows me to use overlays and things like that. So let me just show you what I mean. So for the first one, so this is just a really basic animation I did very quickly inside Keynote. The black actually isn't black, but it's transparent. And it has different layers of transparency with that lens flare. And so what I can do is then export that either as an ProRes rather, Apple ProRes 444, but it's going to be very, very large. So instead, I recommend exporting as a HEVC, which works on the Apple platform. And what it does is it just really, really makes that video much smaller, even though it has a layer of transparency. And the quality, at least to me, looks great. I can't really see the difference. So for example, this is something I made in Keynote. That's all that is. But we can put it in, for example, something like Final Cut Pro, or in this case, DaVinci Resolve. And you can see that that acts as this beautiful overlay. But I just used Keynote. So it's really, really basic, really simple and easy to use. Now, you know that forever we've been able to use images with layers of transparency. For example, we could put a photo on top of this with different layers of transparency, and even inside PowerPoint or Keynote, we can remove some aspects of it, as you can see on the sides. So that we've been able to do for a long time. So if we had an image of the moon like this, we could remove the background and then we can put it inside our slide in somewhat unique way. But what if it wasn't an image? What if instead it was a video? And if we did something like this, well, that's not going to work. We want a video, for example, of the moon rotating, but without the background. So in this case, for this particular moon video, I got it from Motion Array, not a sponsor, but you can look for things like this from Pixels or Pixabay. There are other resources. Just search for transparency or videos with alpha channel. So we could take something like this, and then it has the background is removed. It doesn't have a background, using the alpha channel, and then that still works inside our video. So that can be really nice. The other thing you might notice is that in Apple Keynote, you can take a video and change its transparency. Whether or not it has an alpha channel or not, you can just adjust the transparency of the video. But you'll notice when I'm going all over with this video with an alpha channel, it's in motion, the motion just continues going the same way. So it's not interrupted by moving from slide to slide. So we've had images like this. So this is just a photo. So that's a PNG photo. So the background is removed. So there's not an outline. You can kind of see a little bit of an outline, but I did that actually. I think I just did that in Keynote. And then of course we have the HEVC video codec there. So it's two images. We have a JPEG underneath, a PNG on top, and also the video on top. So if you look at a video like this, you might think, well, this is just one video playing inside Keynote. And everything I'm doing in this video, by the way, is in Keynote. So this is not edited afterwards. This is Keynote. But this is not one video. This is actually two videos. The falling leaves are actually not there. So this is a different video with an alpha channel. So we see just the leaves. And then later we could put in any kind of image underneath it that we want. And in this case, it's an HEVC, but it came originally from an Apple ProRes that I reduced the size in QuickTime. You can take an Apple ProRes file, and then you can export that as HEVC, so it'll be much, much smaller and much more manageable to use. For the rest of this video, I'd just like to take you through a bunch of examples. So I hope you'll stick around, but you have to really be into this. You might have to be into this. So let's look at some examples. So we're talking about the leaves video. So here it is in action in an actual presentation slide, talking about Japanese culture. So this is the how important the idea of going out to watch the leaves in the fall. So we have the text, and we have the background image and the leaves subtly falling. Or in this case, we could have more leaves, more videos. Some are going over the text, some are behind the text and behind the bridge. This might be overkill, but just as an example to show you how it works. And then the JPEG behind also has a subtle motion to it. All right, let's look at a different example. So in this case, we have the video with the alpha channel. That's the trees in the front. And then we can just do a simple animation like this to introduce the idea of solitude. And then the presenter talks about that and the importance of that. This one is a coconut tree or palm tree. You can imagine using it something like this. Maybe the Hawaii Tourist Bureau is making a presentation, so they could have slides like this. So it's subtle. It is just a photo, but there is a little bit of a video there. So the palm trees kind of sway over the text just a little bit. Another example of it. Okay, so in this example, the black actually is not black, but it's a transparent. So this rain on the window has an alpha channel in it. So you can lay it over anything. So let's say, for example, we were talking about why is running so popular in Oregon, and you're trying to get input from the audience, and then just very subtly, this can come in. So without ever having to say rain yet, okay, yes. Well, yes, rain is one of the reasons. So actually, it's good to run in the rain. Keeps the temperature down, feels good. And here's another example using that rain overlay. So in this case, it is rain on a window, but in this case, it feels like condensation, or we might feel refreshment. And then this is juxtaposed to the real message of this slide, which was all the sugar in Coke. And then another video comes in, another overlay with the sugar that's filling up the bottle. Right, so we have two videos, the rain and the sugar in this case. Okay, so here's one. Here's a bird in isolation. He has the alpha channel. So you look at it here. The bird actually isn't moving, but in Keynote, we can put animation with it. So the bird is moving and the image is moving just a little bit. So it gives the illusion of the bird is flying. And this is not superfluous. The presentation, let's say, is talking about, in this case, talking about the Western gull. And the fact that most people just say seagull, but actually all these seabirds have proper names. Then let's say we zoom in to Haystack Rock, which is a protected area. So we want to give some scale to it. So it's 72 meters tall. And this area up here, well, the whole rock is protected, but this is where the seabirds lay their eggs and have their nests. So this is a restricted area. It is forbidden to climb it, but sometimes people do climb it, and then the Coast Guard will have to come and rescue you. So there was a helicopter, which was just a video with an alpha channel, and then we have a bird. So we have two alpha channels over one JPEG. Okay, in this case, sticking with the sea, let's say we're introducing this piece of data. There was a recent survey that said the majority of Americans, although afraid of sharks, the majority of Americans also feel that sharks need protection. All right, so that's just the two videos coming in, and there's sort of an illusion of the text being revealed from the fin. So that's kind of cool. Okay, this is just a video, but the background is removed, so we only see the person walking. So how might we use this? So let's say the presentation is about smartphone addiction. So this is, let's call him Distracted Steve. And he's always just looking at his phone. Then we can skip through the slides and just wherever we go, Steve is not really paying attention. He's not really taking it in because he's so engrossed in his phone. Doesn't matter where he goes. We can get kind of ridiculous with this. There we go. That's actually two videos. So we have the Steve video, and then I added an overlay of water as well. Or in this case, here we have Distracted Steve, always looking at himself. He doesn't even notice the meteorite coming in and its impact. Also a video. So we have two videos. We have the meteor, we have the explosion, and then we can have text coming in as well. So that's all that is, right? So it's three videos, all with alpha channels overlaid on a JPEG. Okay, this one is three different videos. So we have three trees, and one video has two trees in it. With this, we could make a forest to introduce the idea, for example, clear cutting, just as an example. Okay, with this one, these are some videos that I got from Motion Array that will start all white and then go with an alpha channel, though, just the black ink will cover up. It's actually not white, but it's transparent. So how could we use that? Let's say we're talking about, I don't know, a section on creativity. So we're talking about Picasso and then some of his quotes. So the video comes in, which was always there, but it had an alpha channel, so most of it was transparent. And then it becomes all black through this sort of ink feel. And then again, this way, going the opposite way. Different video, but the opposite motion to reveal the quote. Using the same kind of thing, the ink. Let's say we're doing talking about Sumier and talking about different concepts, graphic design concepts like contrast. And the second one, let's say, what is it? So it kind of reveals itself a bit more slowly, empty space. Yeah, that's just, anyway, just interesting ways, just things to think about, ways to use alpha channels. You could use clouds like this. You could put several clouds. Maybe we're talking about the stereotype of the weather in London. Every time I've been there, it's been really nice, though. But it's not always cloudy in London, of course. Sometimes it's very nice. The rest of the examples have to do with overlays, film overlays, like what you're seeing now. So part of this is cut out, but there's still a layer of sort of the flickering light that's over that. So it's a layer of transparency. I think the reason that I'm really attracted to this because I grew up with 8mm film and then with 16mm film, experimenting with that later in life. I just really like it. So in this case, for example, let's say I have this home movie. I have 8mm film that I digitized, but it was digitized with a 16:9 aspect ratio, and there's a 4:3 aspect ratio. So it has these ugly black bars here. Yeah, I could cover them up in some other way, but also I could just put this overlay. So there's 8mm film overlay, which has that little bit of movement around the edges, just like you get when you show a movie with a projector. But we could also use the same overlay for photos from the 70s, my brother and I at Knott's Berry Farm. Anyway, it just gives us sort of this nostalgic feel. So a common technique is to use a lot of 9:16 or vertical video in a presentation. So you could do something like this. So I don't like to just show the video like it is. I like some kind of overlay over it. It just feels a bit more smooth and intentional. But you could also, if you have, old photos, portrait photos like this that didn't fill the screen, you could do something like this. So I still am filling the screen. It's very more or less more kind of cinematic. Or if I'm doing a presentation about Apollo 16, let's say, I have these photos. You could do it like this, but I could also do the whole thing in a more sort of filmic way using these overlays. Or in this case, let's say we're talking about Japan and comparing the temples to shrines. Again, three different photos, but here it feels like one sort of image in a more filmic way, even though this is just in Keynote. That's all it is. I'm just standing and giving a presentation live. And I have a lot of different overlays, many that I downloaded from Motion Array and that I've sort of edited a bit. So I just think it gives it a really nice feel. It's a nice way to show some photos as part of a larger presentation. It's kind of more filmic in a way, or cinematic. These are just, I have many, many different kinds of overlays. Okay, so here are some more examples. So in this case, I have a video, I have a sort of film overlay. It's a very wide one. And then I have two other videos, the trees in the foreground, and then a JPEG in the back from Oregon. So we can move a little animation there to reveal Mount Hood, and then the title comes in. So just a bit of depth and a bit of interest doing it this way. And then we could move on to the next slide, talking about two of our runners in the club. And again, just to show you, we could do it this way, and that's fine, or this way. There's nothing wrong with that. But I like to kind of come with a filmic theme, if you will, for a live presentation these days. It's just a way to show a different way of doing things. Then you could do it like this as well. I'm just trying to show you different ways that you could use overlays actually inside Keynote. That's one of its advantages. Or let's say, again, I'm doing the Apollo 16. So NASA has a lot of presentations on their website. They have a whole presentation with about 30 slides. But I took that presentation and then changed it a little bit. So let's say we could start with the moon, and then we go into the logo for this mission, Apollo 16, and then just using different film overlays to give it that sort of not sketchy or nostalgic feel. They're just photos, but I sort of give it the feel of that time when we would watch, 16 millimeter or mostly 8 millimeter film back in the old days. Again, these are just overlays over the photos. Just more examples. This was an old video from NASA, and it was just just this 4x3 just sort of stuck there with rough edges. So I put this overlay over it, and that works pretty well. It's just a way to kind of keep it together. Just another example. So finally, this one. So I did this for Mother's Day. So just as an example, let's say I had, this could be like related to documentaries that you do using a bunch of old photos that you had. You didn't have a lot of film, motion picture, but you had a lot of photos, but you wanted it to feel like film, motion picture. So that's just a photo. And this is a photo of my mother. This is my mother in high school. So the year was 1942. So in the midst of World War II, this was my mother in high school. And then 5 years later, she got married in 1947 with my father. Okay, this is a 9x16. And then we can go to more 4x3. And then this actually is a 4x3 actual film, 8 millimeter film from 1947. And I just use that video overlay so it doesn't have these hard edges. And since I digitized it, it had that sort of unsightly black edges on the sides as well. All right, so this was just an example. You might think, if you stuck with it to the end, thank you. But this is just an example of how you might use different kinds of videos with alpha channels, which have the different layers of transparency, such as using it for overlay or just removing the background. A lot of potential. You can do, to various degrees, you can do this in PowerPoint as well, but I think Keynote really does a great job handling video. All right, thank you very much. If you have any questions about how I did some of those particular slides, I would be really excited to hear from you and show you how I did that. All right, thanks very much.